In the hurried rhythm of modern life, where people are swept along by the pressure to succeed, worries about livelihood, invisible expectations, and an unceasing stream of thoughts, there is a quiet yet persistent question that always lingers in the mind: how can one live peacefully in a constantly changing world? This question is not new, yet it never grows old. And precisely there, Buddhist philosophy, a stream of wisdom thousands of years old, becomes more relevant than ever, not as a distant religion, but as a way of living, an art of mindful living amid everyday life. Buddhist philosophy was not created solely for monastics living in mountains or silent meditation halls. On the contrary, the core of Buddhist teachings lies in ordinary daily life, where people eat, drink, work, love, feel hurt, and grow. Buddhism does not ask people to escape the world, but teaches how to live fully within it, with a clear and luminous mind, ungoverned by greed, anger, and ignorance. That is why Buddhist philosophy, though it emerged more than 2,500 years ago, still retains its full value for modern people today. When speaking of Buddhist philosophy for daily living, we are not referring to lofty concepts or rigid doctrines. We are speaking of how to slow down the breath amid worries, how to look deeply into emotions as anger arises, how to let go when the heart is full of attachment, and how to smile at things that do not go as wished. This is the art of mindful living, where every moment can become a lesson in awakening if we are still enough to see. Buddhism teaches that suffering does not come from the external world, but arises from the way we perceive that world. We suffer because of clinging, craving, fear of loss, and the refusal to accept impermanence. Yet it is also right there that Buddhism opens a door. If we understand the impermanent nature of all phenomena, if we clearly see that everything arises and passes away, comes and goes, then we are no longer swept away by the current of life. We begin to live more lightly, more deeply, and more freely. In daily life, Buddhist philosophy does not require us to chant sutras for hours or abandon the world. Sometimes, it is simply drinking a cup of tea in mindfulness, listening to another person with full presence, or merely recognizing an emotion arising within us without judgment. These seemingly small acts are precisely the foundation of a mindful life. For awakening is not found somewhere far away, but within each moment we are truly present. Amid a society that values speed, achievement, and competition, Buddhism offers an entirely different perspective, slowing down to see clearly, living with sufficiency so there is no longer a sense of lack, and living deeply so one does not lose one's way. This philosophy does not oppose development, but helps people develop in a balanced manner, between material and spiritual life, between reason and compassion, between action and stillness. What is special about Buddhist philosophy in daily life is its practicality. Every teaching can be applied immediately in the present moment. When facing stress, we learn to return to the breath. When hurt, we learn to contemplate in order to understand and let go. When success comes, we learn humility so as not to be carried away by ego. And when failure occurs, we learn to see it as a lesson rather than a verdict. For this reason, Buddhism does not promise a life without suffering, but points out a path to understand and transform suffering, not by escaping it, but through mindfulness and wisdom. When we understand that everything is impermanent, we no longer cling. When clinging ceases, the mind becomes light. And when the mind is light, life naturally becomes peaceful. In today's world, where people increasingly feel lonely despite being more connected than ever, Buddhist philosophy is like a lamp illuminating the path back to oneself. It reminds us that happiness does not lie in a distant future, nor in comparison with others, but right in the way we live each day, with mindfulness, understanding, and compassion. This article will accompany you in delving deeply into the spirit of Buddhist philosophy for daily living, the application of Buddhist philosophy in everyday life. Not through dry doctrinal language, but through reflections that are intimate, sincere, and profound. From ways of viewing suffering, happiness, And impermanence, to the art of letting go, slowing down, and rediscovering inner peace, all will unfold as a gentle journey, allowing each person to reflect upon themselves. For in the end, living according to Buddhist philosophy is not about becoming someone else, but about returning to the mindful nature that already exists within oneself. And when we are able to live in this way, each passing day is no longer a burden, but becomes an opportunity to understand, to love, and to live more fully amid this impermanent life. As we go deeper into Buddhist philosophy in daily life, we begin to recognize something very subtle: the Dharma is not separate from life at all, but is life itself when we know how to live mindfully. Every thought, word, and action becomes fertile ground for cultivating understanding and transformation. It is precisely within these seemingly small things that Buddhist wisdom quietly operates, without noise, yet with great endurance. One of the most important foundations of Buddhist philosophy is mindfulness, the ability to fully recognize what is happening in the present moment. But mindfulness is not something mysterious. It does not require us to sit in meditation for hours or withdraw from the world. Mindfulness is present when we are clearly aware of each step we take, each breath we draw, each emotion that arises within us. When we eat and know that we are eating. When we speak and know that we are speaking. When we feel sadness and know that we are sad, without avoidance, without denial. In everyday life, much of our suffering comes from the fact that our minds are always elsewhere. We eat but think about tomorrow. We work while our minds are filled with anxiety about the future. We sit with loved ones, yet our hearts are preoccupied with things that have not yet happened. Buddhism calls this state loss of mindfulness, living without truly being present. And it is precisely this absence that causes us to lose the peace available in the present moment. Buddhist philosophy reminds us to return, not to the past or the future, but to this very moment. For only in the present can we truly live, love, and transform. When the mind abides in the present, worries gradually settle, tensions dissolve, and we begin to feel the inherent peace already within us. Another profound aspect of Buddhist philosophy in daily life is impermanence. Everything changes: emotions, circumstances, people, even the things we once believed to be permanent. When we do not understand impermanence, we cling, we fear, we suffer. But when we clearly see its nature, we learn how to let go gently. Not giving up, but releasing attachment. In life, people often suffer not because of loss itself, but because they do not accept loss. We want things to remain the same, want people to stay, want happiness to never change. Yet impermanence is a natural law that no one can resist. Buddhism does not teach us to fight impermanence, but to live in harmony with it. When we understand that everything comes and goes, we begin to cherish more deeply what we have, live more fully in each moment, and part more gently when separation arrives. Alongside impermanence is non-self, one of the core teachings and also one of the most difficult to understand. Non-self does not mean denying oneself, but clearly seeing that the self we usually cling to is merely a temporary combination of body, mind, and conditions. When we identify ourselves with that self, we become easily hurt, easily angry, easily distressed by gain and loss, winning and losing. In daily life, non-self helps us live more lightly. When criticized, we no longer react intensely. When not recognized, we no longer feel insulted. When success comes, we do not become arrogant. Because we understand that everything is formed by many conditions and does not belong entirely to me. This perspective opens the door to humility, tolerance, and understanding, qualities that create a peaceful life. Another profound aspect of Buddhist philosophy is compassion. But compassion in Buddhism is not soft or sentimental pity, it is wisdom united with love. It is the ability to understand suffering, our own and that of others, and from that understanding arises the wish to alleviate suffering for all. When we realize that everyone carries their own wounds, we judge less, blame less, and open our hearts more easily. In everyday life, compassion begins with very simple things: listening without judgment, speaking sincerely, forgiving when possible, and first of all, knowing how to love ourselves. Buddhism does not encourage blind self-sacrifice, but emphasizes that only when we know how to care for our inner life do we have enough energy to love others in a healthy way. Another important aspect of Buddhist philosophy is the middle way, the path of balance, avoiding extremes. In life, people often fall into two extremes: indulgence or excessive self-discipline. Buddhism points out that both lead to suffering. The middle way is living in balance, working without exhaustion, enjoying without attachment, practicing discipline without harshness. Applying the middle way to daily life helps us maintain harmony between material and spiritual life. We can pursue goals without sacrificing peace. We can succeed without losing ourselves. We can make effort while still knowing when to stop, to breathe, to rest, and to listen inwardly. When applied to daily life, Buddhist philosophy does not turn us into people who withdraw from the world, but helps us live more deeply within it. It does not promise a life without suffering, but offers the wisdom to understand and transcend suffering. It does not give ready-made answers, but teaches us how to look back at ourselves. And then, day by day, in that quiet mindfulness, we begin to realize something very simple: happiness is not something we must search for far away. It lies in the way we breathe, the way we walk, the way we face life with an open heart and a mind no longer bound. If there is one message that Buddhist philosophy wishes to offer modern people, it is this: slow down, look more deeply, and learn how to live with life, not resisting it, not running away, but understanding and transforming it. For when we live in this way, each passing day becomes a step on the path of awakening, gentle, yet full of meaning, when people begin to truly absorb the spirit of Buddhist philosophy in daily life, a very quiet yet profound transformation takes place. There is no noise, no drama, no need for witnesses. It is simply a shift from within, where the way we see life, see ourselves, and see others gradually becomes gentler, more open, and more sincere. One of the most important transformations is the way we face suffering. In ordinary life, suffering is often seen as something to avoid, conceal, or eliminate. People run from sadness through busyness, fill inner emptiness with entertainment, and soothe wounds with temporary comforts. But Buddhism does not teach us to escape suffering. On the contrary, the Buddha teaches us to look directly at suffering, to understand it, to listen to it, and from there, to transform it. When sadness appears, instead of blaming ourselves for being weak or trying to suppress it, we learn to sit with it. We recognize that sadness is merely a mental state: it comes and it will go. It is not us, not our true nature. This very awareness reduces the power of suffering. When we no longer resist, suffering naturally becomes softer, more breathable. Buddhist philosophy teaches that suffering is not an enemy, but a teacher. Through suffering, we understand impermanence more clearly. Through wounds, we learn compassion. Through failure, we become humble. And through stumbling, we truly mature. When we look at suffering through the eyes of wisdom, we no longer fear it, but begin to learn how to walk alongside it with mindfulness. Another depth of Buddhism in daily life is mindfulness within relationships. People often suffer because of others, yet rarely look deeply into how they themselves are present in those relationships. We want to be understood, yet we listen very little. We long to be loved, yet easily hurt others with careless words. Buddhism does not blame anyone, but guides us to turn back to ourselves. When we practice mindfulness in communication, we begin to pause before speaking. We learn to listen not in order to argue, but to understand. We realize that sometimes others do not need advice, they simply need full presence. And that presence, without judgment and without haste, is often the deepest healing gift. From there, relationships gradually become lighter. There are fewer expectations, less effort to change others according to our wishes. We learn to accept people as they are, while also allowing ourselves to be who we truly are. This is precisely the spirit of compassion and wisdom walking side by side, a very distinctive beauty of Buddhist philosophy. Another subtle point emphasized by Buddhism in daily life is true letting go. Letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility. Nor does it mean indifference to life. Letting go, in the Buddhist sense, is releasing what is no longer necessary for the soul, long-held resentment, excessive expectations, exhausting comparisons, and even the images of ourselves that we desperately cling to. In modern society, people often live under an invisible pressure, to succeed, to be better, to be recognized. This attachment leaves the mind with no rest. Buddhism reminds us that the value of a person does not lie in what they achieve, but in how they live, how they face themselves, and how they spread peace to others. When we release these burdens, we begin to experience a very subtle kind of freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever we want, but the freedom from being driven by fear, desire, and competition. It is a deep, enduring freedom, not dependent on external circumstances. Buddhism also teaches a very beautiful way of living, living with sufficiency. Sufficiency does not mean deprivation, but knowing when to stop. Knowing enough in desire, enough in speech, enough in consumption, enough in expectation. When we know sufficiency, we are no longer swept into cycles of comparison and rivalry. The mind becomes light, and life becomes spacious. In daily life, practicing knowing enough can begin with very small things, eating just enough to nourish the body, working just enough to sustain oneself, speaking just enough to avoid hurting others, and desiring just enough to preserve inner peace. This very sense of enough creates a harmonious and sustainable life, both spiritually and materially. A deeper aspect of Buddhist philosophy is mindfulness of death. Not to become pessimistic, but to live more deeply. When we are aware that life is finite, we no longer waste time on meaningless things. We cherish each moment with loved ones more. We live more slowly, more authentically, and with fewer regrets. Buddhism does not view death as an end, but as an inevitable part of the flow of impermanence. This understanding helps people live more courageously, love more deeply, and fear life's changes less. When we apply Buddhist philosophy to daily life, we gradually realize that happiness is not a constant state of excitement, but a deep inner steadiness. It is when the mind is no longer pulled by the past or the future. It is when we can sit with ourselves without feeling empty. It is when we can smile at life, even when life is not necessarily easy. And then, one day, we suddenly realize, we are no longer living to chase after anything. We live to understand, to love, and to fully experience each moment that is here. That is when Buddhist philosophy no longer remains on the pages of a book, but has become our breath, our steps, and the way we are present in this life. If the spirit of Buddhist philosophy for daily living were to be distilled into one sentence, it might be this: to live mindfully amid impermanence, to live lovingly amid imperfection, and to live peacefully amid the constant changes of life. And when we are able to live in this way, each passing day, no matter how simple, becomes a profound journey of understanding and peace. As the journey moves through the deeper layers of Buddhist philosophy in daily life, we suddenly realize that the most precious thing the Dharma offers is not a system of ideas to memorize, nor doctrines to worship, but a way of living, quiet, mindful, and full of understanding. A way of living that helps people return to themselves. Amid a constantly changing world, where everything seems to shift too quickly, Buddhism does not promise us a life without suffering. But Buddhism gives us eyes to look directly at suffering without fear, a heart wide enough to embrace imperfection, and wisdom bright enough not to be swept away by fleeting emotions. When we understand this, we no longer seek a perfect life, but begin to learn how to live fully with what is. The miracle of Buddhist philosophy lies in this: the deeper we go, the simpler everything becomes. There is no need to try to become someone else. No need to chase external standards. We only need to live truthfully with ourselves, knowing what we are thinking, what we are feeling, what we need, and where we are heading. In that simplicity, a very real sense of peace begins to arise. Perhaps today your life is still filled with many worries. Perhaps you are still facing pressure, loss, or uncertainty about the future. But if you can pause for a moment, breathe a little more deeply, and look at things with a bit more mindfulness, you will realize this: you are not alone. What you are going through is the very path that countless others have walked, the path of learning, stumbling, and growing. Buddhist philosophy does not teach us to run away from life, but teaches us to step into life with a different attitude. An attitude not driven by ambition, not weighed down by fear, not bound by the past. An attitude that knows how to accept, how to let go, and how to love in the right way. When the mind changes, the world around us gradually changes as well. At some point, we come to understand that happiness is not something grand. It may be found in a quiet morning, in a warm cup of tea, in a deep breath, or in the moment we truly listen to ourselves. Happiness is not loud or showy, but very ordinary, so ordinary that we often overlook it. And it is precisely in that seemingly ordinary place that Buddhist philosophy quietly blossoms. It does not need to prove itself or persuade anyone. It simply exists, like a gentle light illuminating the path we walk. When we slow down, live more deeply, and feel more gratitude, we begin to see that this life, though not perfect, is still worthy of love and appreciation. If this article brings you a moment of stillness, a bit of reflection, or simply a sense of peace amid the busyness, that in itself is already something precious. The journey of mindful living does not need to be rushed. Each day, if we understand ourselves a little more, let go a little more, and live a little more truthfully, that is enough. If you feel that these reflections resonate with you, do not hesitate to leave a comment below. Every thought and feeling you share is part of a shared journey, where souls seeking peace can meet and find resonance with one another. And if you wish to continue accompanying content that is deep and reflective on Buddhist philosophy, mindfulness, letting go, and conscious living, please subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future writings. Each subscription is not only a form of support, but also a bridge that helps wholesome values reach further. Thank you for spending your time here, listening and feeling. May you always keep peace in your heart, remain steady amid life's many changes, and live more deeply each day on your own path of awakening.